Hello, and welcome to my spoiler review for Quantumania. Such an amazing title. As many people have pointed out, it has Ant-Man in it, and they wasted it. But don't worry, I'm not going to be this isn't going to be a Quantumania hate fest. There's some good stuff in here, and we're going to talk about it all. But once again, as is the case with many Marvel movies these days, the real meat and potatoes are the two amazing end credit scenes. Council of Kangs and a teeny tiny sneak peek at Loki Season 2, which is better than the entire Quantumania movie. We're going to discuss those end credit scenes just a scooch here because they're Kang-centric, and we're going to talk about Kang. But I'll be making individual videos to discuss both of them because they certainly warrant a deep dive. They are just fantastic. They open the door to so many possibilities, which is something that's talked a lot about here. You know, they write a lot of checks they don't cash, and they could cash them, which I think is all the more frustrating. You're like, Marvel, you have this money in the bank. Why don't you dispense it? All right, so speaking of tiny, with like all MCU movies these days, this thing has been micromanaged to death. Because now we know that Marvel fiddles with these things until the very last minute, not just from VFX, but to the story itself, because they don't nail down the script before they start shooting. And James Gunn, who of course has bailed on Marvel, well, I don't know, they kind of like agreed to see other people, and he's going over to run DC. And one of the promises that he's made is that he's not going to release movies, or I guess really technically, start filming until the script is locked down. And he's penciled in some release dates, but they're just penciled in, and I really hope that James Gunn sticks to that because I think this is a growing problem. You should not roll camera until your script is really in good shape. Like when they started rolling camera on No Way Home, infamously, they didn't have a third act. Tom Holland has talked about being like going up, and being like, how's this going to end? And they're like, I wish I knew, Tom. We'll find out. Let's see if Toby signs that contract. But anyway, Quantumania originally had a different ending. That's why I bring this up. It probably had a couple of different endings, but the one that I heard of was that Hope doesn't come back and rescue Scott, and instead, Scott and Kang, just as Scott promises, they both lose, with Scott remaining trapped in the quantum realm with Kang at the end of the movie. And I think that would have been a great idea. I think they should have stuck with that, because a theme throughout this movie is doing the time, with Cassie and Scott talking about being in jail for doing the right thing. Not for something wrong. Although I'm pretty sure Scott's first stint in jail was for just breaking the law. But since then, of course, he's done time for the right reasons. So as Scott and Kang fought at the end of this movie, and I had yet to discover they had gone with yet another ending, I could hear Scott saying, "Don't worry about me, fam. I can do the time." And I was like, that would have come together real nice. So I wish they had stuck with that ending. What was it, too much of a bummer? I mean, we know he's going to get out. Maybe they felt it was too similar to when he was already stuck in there before Endgame. Who cares? It would have worked really well. As for the ending that they went with, I thought they had a missed opportunity here as well. Again, I think almost all of these problems stem from the writers. But Kang should have shown up at the restaurant where they were having Cassie's unbirthday party. Talk about a missed chance for Disney synergy. Why didn't they call it an unbirthday party? Also, speaking of product placement, if I were Baskin-Robbins, I would demand my product placement money back. Because what was with Scott spitting out the ice cream cake at the end because he thought it was disgusting? I mean, who wanted an ice cream cake after that? And let me tell you, Baskin-Robbins ice cream cakes are delicious. They're so good. So I think that's one of the reasons I was particularly offended with that sequence. Back to Kang, I thought for sure we'd see him as another diner or something. Maybe he should have been also eating ice cream cake and been like, mine's so good. Because I knew which Baskin-Robbins to go to. You do have to select a good Baskin-Robbins. But anyway, having Kang at the restaurant, I think would have really driven home that he's everywhere and he's very hard to defeat. I thought that would have been great. But instead, I suspect that the unbirthday party was actually supposed to be at the beginning of the movie. And I think that they just stuck it at the end when they decided to go with this different ending. And the only thing they had to film in reshoots was Scott second-guessing himself as he walked down the street. So it's too bad. And Feige, we're starting to see the seams. Back to Kang, when he cartoonishly got sucked into the multiverse engine, I wasn't even sure he was dead. It wasn't until the Kang disco party, I'm sorry, Council of Kangs, it was a Kang disco party. It was a total Kang disco party. I was like, I don't think they had metallic fabric in ancient Egypt, but maybe. But anyway, he's like, I just like to dress like this. I can go anywhere in time. This is what I got. But anyway, they clarified that he was dead. And I was like, that's weird. You killed Kang the Conqueror after just one Ant-Man movie? So that's weird. That's very weird. But maybe just this version of Kang the Conqueror is dead, because we saw tons of Kangs and some of them looked like Kang the Conqueror as well. But the point of having multiple Kangs is to mean endless cool storylines, not endless possible mistakes, right? Like each Kang should represent a really cool story, not a crumpled piece of paper on the floor of whatever's passing for Marvel's screenwriting room these days. And I know it's all written on computers, but this is a better metaphor. My biggest problem is that MCU Kang overall lacks dignity. And from what I can gather from the comics, never been a Kang fan, although I'm open to having my mind changed, and I still feel there's potential for MCU Kang. But from the comics, it seems that Kang is all about dignity. I mean, look at this artwork. He is dignity personified. Yet he's very undignified, not only multiple times in the film, but in the mid-credit scene with the Council of Kangs, he's out of control. All those Kangs are out of control, whereas Kang is control. That's why he has time at his disposal. So that was a weird choice. And then also, to me, and I think to Kang, getting defeated by a swarm of giant, super smart ants is also pretty undignified. I couldn't believe it was happening, and I don't think Kang could either. That was such a bad choice. And Kang monologuing to the point that he missed his opening to escape, he's supposed to be too smart for that. And these days, audiences are definitely too smart for that. I was like, your opening's right there. The portal's there. Why are you still talking? You've been waiting for so long for this moment. He's like, but hold on, just 1 minute. I just really have to say this. And again, as I said in my non-spoiler review, I never really understood what Kang was saying because he just talked in circles and was so vague. To me, Jonathan Majors Kang is best in his dignified moments. His quiet conversations with Janet in the beginning sequences, where he's keeping his options open. How perfect is that for Kang, right? Endless possibilities. All the while, quietly manipulating her. I thought that stuff was fantastic. And the end credit scene from Loki, where he's Victor Timely, looking like he jumped over to HBO's The Gilded Age, I was loving that. Loving it. These are my two favorite versions of Kang, along with He Who Remains from the end of Loki Season 1, who I still appreciate, even though that seems to have opened the door to silly Kang. I don't like silly Kang. Now, let's talk about how Quantumania not only rips off Star Wars, but rips off bad Star Wars. As Star Wars copies the MCU to dig itself out of its own hole, why the heck would the MCU start copying Star Wars? Copying bad Star Wars and Marvel now, two things that did not work out and were rejected by fans? What's going on over at Marvel offices that they would make that choice? Anyway, not only did we waste a lot of time with the Quantum Realm Rebellion, again, right out of Star Wars, and if you cut the Quantum Realm Rebellion right out of the movie, you would not only not lose anything of note, but you'd have a whole lot of extra time for the main characters and maybe some action sequences. Maybe this is an action comic book movie. I think it should have action sequences. But then Cassie takes over Kang's hollow projection and speaks to the rebels, which, by the way, totally rips off the end of Andor. I was like, you just did this. And it was, it was like it was really effective. So it's weird to see it again here. And then Cassie says now is the time for them all to take a stand and band together and fight now. And I'm like, this is the exact same ending as The Rise of Skywalker. When all the ships converge to create an armada big enough to take on the First Order, it's the exact same thing. Now in the comics, here's what Kang can do, right? His suit gives him super strength, he has energy blasts, and he can create force field projection. And we see all of that here. But think about it. Kang is a time villain. It's the currency he tries to bribe Scott with, which means he can not only travel through time in the multiverse, but what about in short bursts during a fight? If you hit him, can't he maybe go back in time a few seconds and dodge it? I mean, I would be much more, or jump forward in time. I would be much more interested in exploring that than a quantum realm rebellion. And I think it would make Kang a far more unique and interesting villain than the Saturday morning cartoon one that he's been turned into here. Like, I know that's not really used in the comics, but what a missed opportunity. I mean, just because the comics never capitalized on that, why wouldn't you capitalize on that here? I mean, they focused so much on his chair, his cool throne, never used it. It was just frustrating. I mean, everything that makes Kang unique as a villain wasn't utilized here. He just, he's blasting his way in a suit like, so many characters. So yes, I prefer subtle, dignified Kang, a man who has nothing but time. And I'd forgive the monologuing if that's why he did it. But instead, it just allowed enough time for Hope to show up and deliver the final blows, and it wasn't lost on me that Scott didn't even get to take out his own villain. I was like, come on, what? Also, I know the MCU is PG-13, but Scott and Hope didn't even kiss at the end. It was like a fake out. You were like, oh, this is going to be a cute kiss, and then they just hugged. I was like, I don't think you guys actually like each other. I think this might be a platonic relationship. I mean, it was just super weird and awkward. So yeah, the MCU tradition of killing almost all of the villains in the movie they're introduced continues, inexplicably, even with Kang variants. We're 2 for 2, being killed off as soon as we meet them, and MODOK dies as well. As I said in my non-spoiler review, it's not only ridiculous how bad MODOK looks here VFX-wise. Again, I feel it's almost a FU from the VFX team. They were like, let's just do it. Let's just put this in the movie just to really drive our point home that we're unhappy. But in the comics, MODOK has nothing to do with Kang, nothing to do with the quantum realm, and nothing to do with Ant-Man. So why is he here? And he's not even funny. Because honestly, Corey Stoll, I think he's a talented actor. He's a good supporting character actor, but he's not a funny guy. He can be, I guess he'd be like kind of funny, but he's not hilarious. He's not going to make you LOL. So why would anyone go out of their way to make Corey Stoll MODOK? Because they just twisted the MODOK story so much to like make it fit. Like, talk about like really jamming a MODOK, peg into like the dullest of holes, which is Corey Stoll. Sorry, Corey Stoll. So in this case, yes, please do put this thing out of its and our misery. I don't think you could even do MODOK in live action, to be honest with you. I mean, and also MODOK, they've tried to do him a couple of times in animation and stop motion and stuff, and it has failed miserably there too. MODOK just, I think, is a very, 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 very niche character. Maybe, speaking of James Gunn, maybe James Gunn could have done MODOK. I think he would be better to do MODOK than Adam Warlock, quite frankly. But, oh well, all right. And is this really even an Ant-Man movie? So many of you were like, I liked the first 2 Ant-Man movies, Grace. I'm looking forward to this one. And I felt kind of bad for you because this is just so different than the other Ant-Man movies. I think, I didn't like those, but I didn't like them because I felt that they were, they were not kind of mid, they were super mid. So but I liked the direction they were headed in. I just wanted a really cool Ant-Man movie, and we still haven't gotten it. Because I think we can all agree, and clearly Disney does too, that what's really cool about Ant-Man is that he gets really tiny and really big. So does Hope, by the way. So does the Wasp. I wish she could go giant. I wish they would utilize that. Just like Cassie does here. So why make a movie where all these characters can't really use their Pym particles the way they should, and the way we want them to? There's one cool shot towards the end of the movie where Scott is Giant Man, and Kang tells his army to open fire on him, and Giant Man rips off the circular lid of a building and uses it as a shield. I was like, that's pretty cool. But it was such a short scene, and I was distracted because I didn't understand how Giant Man could withstand so many blue energy bolts. Blasts, but at other times, just one blue energy blast seemed deadly. I was like, it just seems like it's annoying him. But enough complaining about this movie. I promised you some positive stuff, so let's talk about what I liked besides dignified Kang. The Wasps! Oh, I loved the Wasps here. Both of them! Evangeline Lilly doesn't get a lot of time to shine in this film, but I did like the redesign on her suit. I loved her electric glowing wings. This was great stuff. But when she is on screen, she does some incredible eye acting. She and Robert Pattinson, they're creating a category. I love it. In the scenes where she sees her parents get sucked into the quantum realm, there's a great shot where she gives Scott a look that says, I'm going after them. But not like in a I'm scared for them way, but in a matter of fact, where they go, I go way. And it was so cool. But I also thought it was funny that Scott was like, okay, good luck in there, because he was not going until his own family member got sucked into. He wasn't like, oh yeah, we should go get them. He was like, my family member's still okay. No, I guess we're all going. Hope is really ride or die because she goes back into the quantum realm at the end after Scott as well. And I wish, maybe I would have liked the moment more if we'd seen her make that choice again too, being like, or even in a funny way, being like, I can't believe I have to go back in here. And I don't know, I really didn't like the ending that they went with. I thought it just undercut the severity of the film. There could be, the reason I like Endgame so much is because it has so many consequences. But anyway, and then when she has her visor down and she's trying to catch up with her parents in the quantum realm as they get sucked in and they're like flailing all over the place, you know, you can see her through her visor. She has amazing eye makeup and eyebrows. I'm like, you look amazing, Hope. Like maybe it's Maybelline. She looks so great. But then you can see her scanning the environment around her to try and find them and decide how to handle it. She just seemed like such a pro. And it was just so super cool. I loved it. More people in the MCU should call Hope Van Dyne for backup because she knows what she's doing and she's super loyal and she gets that from her mom. So let's talk about Janet Van Dyne, right? Some of my favorite parts of Quantumania, and I'd wager yours too, are the flashbacks to when Janet is stuck in the quantum realm. Michelle Pfeiffer looks amazing, so good. And just like Hope, she knows what she's doing. A self-assured but not cocky pro. I don't like when they make female heroes rub it in your face because, you know, it's not a quality that you like to see in anyone. So, but I'm particularly happy when they don't do it with female characters or female heroes because they do it so often. Michelle Pfeiffer is asked to interact with a lot of green screen and CGI, and she also has to have a strong reaction when she just touches the multiverse engine and it shows everything that Kang's done. I'm like, I don't get that either. How would that happen? But we're like, let's just go with it. But Michelle Pfeiffer sold all that. She sold all that, and a lot of actors can't. So I was very impressed. She did it perfectly, she did it subtly, and she did it organically. I was like, wow, Michelle Pfeiffer, you're a pro too. A pro is an actress. The only moment that felt forced to me with her was when she came across that caravan that was a Star Wars Dune ripoff, and the action moments were cool. Like, again, I don't know if that was a body double or not, but I bought it. But she like attacked the leader and like stabbed him or cut off his arm, right? And then his arm grew back and they laughed about it because they were actually pals. And I was like, I've seen this so many times and it's never good. Stop doing that. I mean, they could have just got that like manta spaceman. I mean, these weren't aliens because they're in the quantum realm, but you could have gotten that quantum manta ray. She could have just gotten on her own. We didn't need that moment. I mean, we could tell that Janet was cool. We didn't need that. I think that was like a super cocky moment, and I didn't like it. The cantina scene, though, actually worked for me. I actually liked the scene, except the ridiculous idea that in the quantum realm you can get a drink at a bar or drink someone's ooze. Maybe that was the ooze at the bar. Maybe that David Dastmalchian's ridiculous alien had a side business. But that will make you... Also, the whole joke for a family movie, like bodily holes, I was like, you guys are really on the edge here. But... that drinking that stuff would make you understand alien languages? What is this, Alice in Wonderland? What's scientific about that? I know some of you are like, sometimes science can seem like magic, and I liked that line in Thor too, but this is just straight up Alice in Wonderland, and it doesn't fit here. But overall, I liked the cantina scene. You know what it reminded me of more than the cantina? Like at first I was like, this is like Star Wars cantina. But then I went on to be like, it's actually like a different George Lucas, Steven Spielberg property. And that's the opening sequence of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. A fancy party with an undercurrent of menace. I thought that was really cool. And on that note, I liked Bill Murray too in this movie. His recent scandal aside and just focusing on his work here, we don't get to see him play a genuinely bad guy ever. You know, like he's smarmy, but he's always a good guy at heart. But here he was genuinely a bad guy. And I appreciated that he was willing to lean into that and do that and, you know, mess with his persona, his public persona a little bit. And I thought he did a really good job. That menace was there. And I think it was, you know, it was like Bill Murray, but like how you've never, well, again, I don't want to touch on his scandal, but just from this perspective of the movie, he did a good job. And I did not expect to explore Janet having needs while she was trapped in the quantum realm for 30 years. But I did appreciate the realities of it. I mean, again, it was like making Janet and Hank not just Hope's mom and dad, but like real people. I mean, and it was 30 years. Hank didn't love it, but he understood it. And I thought while it was sweet that he only had a few lunches with this woman over the years, he could have dated too, and they could still be pining and like love each other. But I mean, it was 30 years, and neither one of them ever thought they were going to see each other again. So I thought it worked. I also loved the opening sequence with Scott in San Francisco. That was great, living his best life, even though, of course, so much of it was already used in the trailers. These kind of low-key, just like you and me scenes are what Paul Rudd really brings to the MCU. I mean, he executes them so well. They're so relatable. They're so charming. And this was like some of his best moments in Endgame, too, when he brought that flavor to that movie as well. He's just great. A couple of things not shown in the trailer was his lunch with Jimmy Woo. I love that, although enough with the card trick. Introduce a new trick. We already have seen the card trick. You don't have to do that every time we see you guys. But I would love to have heard what they actually talked about. I couldn't believe we didn't hear a little bit of their conversation. I mean, Randall Park and Paul Rudd are so funny. I'm sure they came up with some really great stuff. Maybe it'll be in the cut scenes, right? But cut some of the Quantum Realm rebels. I would have liked to have sat down in that lunch. And the book reading, that was great. And again, convinced me to actually buy Scott's book. I thought what we heard here was not only funny, but insightful to Scott's experience overall in the MCU. And I loved that reveal that this book is going to give Scott's perspective in a lot of different MCU properties. So I thought that was a really great idea. And it sounds like they actually got someone funny to write it as Scott Lang. So I thought it looked great. As for the Cassie stuff, while I love some of the Young Avengers, primarily Kate Bishop, Wiccan, and Hulkling, and I kind of like Viv Vision too, I think that's a cool idea, but I feel there's so much more to explore with both Ant-Mans and Wasps that I'm not ready to move on to the junior version, aka Stature. While Paul Rudd is very good at tugging at the old heartstrings here, being like, I gotta help my daughter, I'd much prefer to see us dig into what makes him tick. As I said, I really loved exploring here that Hank and Janet were real people, not just mom and dad, but ironically, Quantumania turned Scott into just dad. Because again, they don't have enough room in the script to do enough stuff because they wasted it on other ridiculous stuff that shouldn't be in there. So I'd have cut the Quantum Realm Rebels, and I'd have cut Cassie, and just focused on the two Ant-Mans and Wasps and Kangs. I mean, we really should only have one Ant-Man and Wasp, but this is such a great quartet of actors that I think we should just go with it at this point. And I guess the generational thing, kind of could be interesting, right? It's like they're almost like going on like a couple's date, like double dating, but it's the parents of one of the people. I mean, I don't know. It's a little weird, but it should be more seen like double dating and also learning from your mentor. So, I mean, that could be kind of cool. So, yeah, I think they're just skipping to the Young Avengers, and this is one of the cases where they're just definitely doing it too quickly. Finally, I guess we should touch on the sequence of infinite possibilities. And I love the description from MODOK of, Schrodinger's cat in the box. You're in Schrodinger's box. You're the cat. But I still have no idea what that means. It was like a really cool description and sounded really cool, but they never illustrated what that meant. Because I gotta tell you, I don't think they know what it meant either. It was a little bit like Kang's speeches, right? You didn't know specifically why he was trapped in the quantum realm. You just knew he was a bad dude. And you didn't know what he was gonna do if he got out of the quantum realm, except he was just gonna do more bad stuff. And you're like, you gotta give us more to work with here. I'll take multiple Paul Rudds, though. They're always fun. Again, something he's done before. And like every action sequence in this movie, I think it would have benefited from being longer. But it was cool to see all the Scotts working together like a bunch of ants. That was neat. And when Hope dove in after him, again, she's ride or die, and multiplied herself as she flew in, that was cool. And she reached out for the OG Scott. Those were some really cool visuals. Those were neat. I like that sequence as well. What is a multiverse engine? I guess we'll find out in Loki season 2. And I have a little tea for you in my videos discussing those end credit sequences. So be sure to check out those videos when they drop in a couple of hours or so, like in the next 24 hours. But for now, share your thoughts down below. This is the spoiler review, so you can go to town, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.